Welcome everyone to Monday Night Soul Focus, and this is my very special guest, Sarandei. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yes, a little bit nervous because it's like that, but yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I do so many of these that after a while I forget people are nervous, and then I'm like, what's wrong? Are you okay? But it's just I'm just used to doing it.
Yeah, I suppose it's just one of those things, isn't it? That
Yeah.
you sort of get used to doing.
Oh, that's what you get. You get people that they go, "I'll do something when I get the confidence," and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You've got to do it to get the confidence instead of the other way. People wait for the confidence to do something sometimes, and it's just one of those
that's
things.
right. It's just another portal.
Yeah, indeed. So you do absolutely just about everything. So tell everyone what it is that you do.
Well, I am first of all a mum, and my sons are grown up now, and I am an artist. And I've been an artist since I was like 4 years old.
Yep.
I'm also a writer, and I'm also a personal coach as well. So, between all of that has been many other things as well. So they're the things that I have in my life today that really sort of stand out, I suppose. Yeah. No, I'm also like the type of person who has spent quite a lot of time in spiritual study as well.
Yep.
In my own independent time, and what I like to call like a bit of a life explorer, and that has spanned all kinds of areas.
Yep.
So yeah.
So how did you come about spirituality, or how did that happen for you?
So I didn't catch that.
Oh, sorry. How did you get into spirituality? Where did it all start for you?
I guess it's always been there for me, and in terms of like the actual awakening events, there's been heaps of them, and all different kinds. And I suppose the first thing that ever happened for me was when I was about 5 years old. I was in the paddock of my parents' property, and I looked up in the sky, and all I could see was this big, like underbelly of an eagle, like stretched out. And I'm thinking, oh, they're just the clouds, but it actually looked like an eagle's belly. And it just sort of dawned on me that I was sort of almost nestled under an eagle's belly. And then from there onwards, I just saw wedge-tailed eagles all the time. And they, because we lived on a property that had about 3,000 acre paddocks, and there was just always these wedge-tailed eagles. So yeah, it was just really amazing. And so I'd often, even in my teenage years, just follow them and walk for 5 hours at a time on my own, and take my art gear with me and writing gear, and just follow landmarks. And that's how I spent a lot of my time. Also, I guess one of the biggest awakenings for me was motherhood, and also intuitively knowing that I was going to be a mum, and having knowings about what that was going to look like for me. And going through the birthing process, the pregnancy and everything, because I'd never held a child before I had my son. And so that's been an initiation. So for me, there's been initiations within initiations. It's all like these little tiny portals inside of one large master plan. I can see now, looking back, especially since being on the planet now for nearly half a century. And so that means that
we know of.
That we know of. That's right. That's right. Thanks for reminding me. But yeah, so basically, I guess in my mid-20s, I had a a big spiritual opening where I got my Reiki 1 and 2. So I'm a Reiki master, and it took me 20 years to come into my Reiki master. And yeah, when I got my Reiki 1 and 2, that's when I had a very large opening with all of my artwork as well. And I produced probably, like a couple of hundred pieces within a couple of years with some of my collaborators. So that was in the late 90s, and I opened my own art business, which was called Etheric Art. And yeah, we had a great time doing all of that, and just learning all about all the things, which was very exciting. And I guess one of those great moments from back then was spending Friday nights with my little posse of spiritual adepts, and we would just go and give Reiki for free every Friday night for gold coin donation for sick people and the elderly. And I reckon that was probably one of the most profound things that I did back then, even though on the scale of things, for what I thought originally was big spiritually, looking back, that was one of the key parts, even though there was, like meditation groups, spiritual healings, dabbling in, the bits and pieces like most of us did back then, or, some of us do today, maybe or maybe not. But for me, that was a huge one.
Did you just say you just sort of gradually just sort of stepped into it? There was no major incident?
I've had a lot of near-death experiences, and I've had a lot of portals of change forced upon me. Probably one of the main incidences.
Can you explain to us what a portal
of change is?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Portal of change is when something happens within our life that forces us to shift and adjust, and we often have no choice but to go within and to find an inner particle of kind of spiritual guidance within. For me, that meant like growing up feeling like I was different to everyone around me. Probably had all of these different things going on, because before I was 12, I already had won a Young Writers Award for poetry, and I was already showing horses. So that's another thing in my background. I was a professional show horse producer and rider. And that I actually was at the top of my game for that by the time I was 16. But I suppose one of those breakthrough moments, like many of us, and some of us don't have it this way, but for me it was one of these portals of change where things were thrust upon me, and I was actually in my teenage years, and so I ended up trying substances to rebel or to ease my pain, so to speak, of this portal of change that was thrust upon me. And I guess through that change of consciousness that always comes in those types of things, we all sort of know that happens. That's when so sort of like a different awareness started to, especially once I started to just sort of try a few different areas, like the psychedelics and things like that. I've got plenty of artwork that comes from that era of my life, and at the moment, I'm really happy to look back on that time and just with great interest, and see how that expansion worked in either side of the polarities. And that's the hindsight that we get with maturity. So
So when you said you were doing when you were doing going out and doing Reiki for gold coin donations, where were you doing that? Were you going out on the streets or going to hospitals?
No, that was at a beautiful There was a beautiful healing centre in Oaklands Park that I don't know if it's still open, but there were some of you who are listening might remember. And if you do remember, let me know what it was, because I can't remember it. It was in Oaklands Park, and they had 2 float tanks that were submerged in the at floor level, I think, by memory. And we used to go there and do float tanks. So this was when I was like in my mid-20s, in the late 90s. And yeah, they just set up probably 4 or 5 beds, and people just used to come in, and afterwards they'd have a bit of a cup of tea and like a biscuit or something like that. And yeah, that was really awesome. Yeah.
So so you started in Reiki, and how did you develop from? You said you were doing a lot of Reiki on people. How did you develop from there, your healing modalities?
Everything. In 1999, I'd had Reiki too, and that's when everything blew right up for me, and I had just everything enhanced. It was incredible. And so from what that happened is all of this art business came, and I did all of these artworks. I had a beautiful collection of work that I was just, I was painting in the middle of the night, throwing out oil paints and smoking cigars, drinking coffee, and just really loving life. And that was probably the first time that I started to feel like I was really in alignment, even though I'd won art awards in my teen years, and like I'd already become quite a accomplished artist in my school years. I didn't enjoy it, and I felt like it was driven, probably because of the environment that I was in. But by that stage, I was like, it just bloomed. And the cool thing about that was that that's when I, intuited that I was going to be a mum. And so, yeah, that's when the next creative expression happened. And I was like in full Earth Mother mode when I was pregnant. And the amazing thing is the way that I was living when I was pregnant is the way that my life is now and today. So it's very much in alignment, lots of all the organics, and just looking after myself, high vibrational living, so very clean living style. And I feel like that was a portal of change that was kind of thrust upon me, because I intuited, after getting my Reiki and having all this amazing art stuff happen and really tapping into everything, because I was also a model in the late 80s, and that really was too difficult for me. I just really couldn't resonate with that lifestyle, and I couldn't actually drop in and really relax in that field. So by the time this all happened, it was just perfect timing. Now, for me, receiving Reiki without really knowing too much about the spiritual principles of like Usui, which is a set of principles which are really helpful to manage the energetics that come along with Reiki, including Kundalini awakening and all of those kind of things that happen. I wasn't really, probably wouldn't have even taken too much notice at the time, because everything was just so big and like full on and really expansive. And I was only in my, like mid-20s. So my next portal of change took another 20 years for me to get my Reiki masters, and I got pretty, like severely tested during that time. And it was good for my growth. And if we dabble into like human design, like when I've been talking a bit about, my profile in human design is one of those sort of like role model-y type people that we tend to go through the ringer and get all of the interesting experience and learn from it, firsthand in the Earth School arena, and then like become more knowledgeable and get that wisdom.
Can you tell us about the personal archetypes that you were talking to me before? Just some people might not know
in
what that
human
is.
design.
Yeah, human design. Yeah.
Yeah, so that in human design, I've only just come across that in the last 2 years, and that was another beautiful initiation into empowerment that I'm really grateful for. I don't know too much about it, but I do share it with all my clients and give them the knowledge that I have with their own chart, and that's just an extra bonus that I give for them because I feel like it's really important for people to know about that. So there's like 5 different types. There's the generator, the manifestor, the reflector, the projector, and the manifesting generator. And those types have specific, almost like skill set, you know, and the human design in itself, as far as I know, just remembering I'm not, you know, like I haven't got a, you know, I'm not a human design reader, but those types basically have their own authority, and it's all different. And so when we know about human design, which is made of like the Kabbalah, it's also I Ching, and it's also astrology and the chakra system. So it's like an actual system that combines all of those together. When we have that knowledge, it makes it really easy, and we can actually learn about others as well. And that makes, you know, interacting with others very sovereign, because I know myself and I know you, and it's sort of like, yeah. And in that way, I feel it relaxes the types of
misunderstandings.
Just those misunderstandings and just the weirdness that comes, especially with a whole bunch of people on the planet, you know, like having those portals of change, of expansion forced upon them, like we've had in the last couple of years, and just energetically, especially with all of the changes and even the energies that have coming and flooding the planet, like we've had, that everyone's, you know, doing their best to get through. So I find it's really helpful.
Yep. So what do you do? What do you do now? Because you have a healing room and you take on a lot of clients. Can you tell us about what you do in that field?
Yeah, I love doing Reiki. I did a healing with someone yesterday, and so I do specific Reiki healings, and that's part of what I do for Earth Heaven as well. So with Earth Heaven, I have an ascension program, which sounds pretty out there, and it's like, whoa, does that mean that I'm going to ascend when I have this program? No, it's to assist with the ascension that people find themselves in, and to make the most of it using NLP and using hypnosis and using timeline therapy. It also, I also do a light body activation with Reiki. It's a master treatment.
Yep.
Yeah, I do have a healing room, and I also take people through art therapy as well, so that they can actually access their own creativity, which I believe everyone has. Like I certainly, and that's through another portal of change that I discovered that place as well, which I'll go into a little bit later. But basically, yeah, I take people through their own artwork, and they can, at the end of this, it's meant to be an 8-week program, but it's a bit flexible because everyone's needs change. But at the end of that, they can have sacred space and make their own artwork, and they can use it in a therapeutic way, like for trauma healing or to work through strong feelings, or they can do whatever they want, and I just hold space for them. And if they want to know any of the ins and outs of painting or whatever, I help them as well. So yeah, with just so that portal of change was, I didn't paint for 20 years. So I had a big problem. Like one of the things that I'm open with and I'm very transparent with is that I've got addiction recovery. So I'm a long-term addiction recovery person.
Yep.
And that means that that I have been able to change my life in that way as well. And that's another portal of change that was forced upon me. And that's a whole nother section. But, you know, I'm not going to go too much into that, but I do, you know, I like to be transparent about that because I think it helps people. And during that time of my recovery, I hadn't painted for 20 years. I'd done other artwork, but actually painted. And it's a funny thing, but with art and paint, you know, like it's a different type of thing. You're working with water element. You're working with, you know, the heat, the drying of it. You've got to work with the paper. It's like, it's an elemental thing as far as I'm concerned. And so picking up the paintbrush and painting again after 20 years was a huge initiation, because I didn't think that I would ever do art again, and I was actually doing trauma therapy on myself. So I've got a whole series of really interesting paintings which are like energetic abstract. So on my art website, and all of my art, because I've got art from the last 30 years, a lot of my art from my childhood has been lost or sold. So I can't get hold of that, but I'd love to see it. If anyone sees it, let me know, because I'm still known by my birth name with a lot of my art, and that's Sonia Galbraith. And so my art website is visionaryart by soniagalbraith.com, and that's where I sell, you know, like prints of my work. I've sold original artworks, and soon we'll have a web shop up on that, but at the moment it's just sort of like getting in touch with me via, if you see something, there's a gallery with a selection of images of mine, and you'll see some of those images are what I call energetic abstract, and they're the ones that I did for the trauma recovery. So that was really interesting. And then weaving into that as well, the healing. So using my Reiki to weave the healing into the painting as well. So on a quantum level, it's worked really well. Very pleased with that. Although I haven't been able to tap into doing that, because a lot of my creative energy has been going into other areas, like my coaching. I have real passion for coaching people. I'm a master NLP practitioner now. I got my master's this year, and I got that through Empowered Academy, and it's just been amazing. I just love hypno. I love taking people through into their timeline and adjusting quantum areas to suit them, and, you know, really calibrating on the person, making sure that they get what they want out of it.
So how does that work? How does that work? Can you explain to us about the timeline?
Well, if every person, I mean, obviously your coach is going to take you through this, but every person has a timeline in their mind of events that come from, you know, the past to the future. You know, any memory. Oh shit, yeah, I remember when that happened. I just swore. Yeah, you know, I remember when that happened. Yeah, and then this happened, and then that happened. Well, that's basically what we call the timeline. And so what I do as a practitioner, in kind of like a trance state, because we're always in a trance state, and, you know, even when people drive their car and they're driving and they're like, how did I get to this spot? That's actually trance state. And so I'd guide you or guide the person into their timeline and give them a very structured way to go back into their timeline and learn really important things, that very empowered things about the events that took place. And then we go in there and change those and remove sort of like the charge of the feelings connected into that event and before as well. And what we also do, which is really exciting, is we can anchor in positive stuff, you know, the positive stuff that really is an anchor in the past. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when you know, I went to Sydney that year and everything was amazing and this thing happened. We can go in there and anchor into that and strengthen that as well. So we can go in and out of the timeline. And because I work with Reiki master level, that is also a way to get into the timeline. And
so you do
it's very good. It's very good for trauma clearings. I just wanted to add that. Sorry, I interrupted.
Okay, so trauma clearing, what? So all types of trauma, just everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And the cool thing about timeline therapy, and even just all the NLP modalities, because you're changing the neural pathways, and it also bridges into the cellular memory structure as well. So with all of that, we actually go in and we can change the trauma charges, and once they're removed, the person is just like the load's lifted. And the cool thing about it is that they don't actually have to relive the trauma, and they don't have to relive the story either, and it's fully guided and in a very safe and very respectful way. And they're in full charge, so they're in full control of what goes on, and it's so structured as well, and also pre-framed at the beginning so that the client knows exactly what's going to happen. Which is really important.
Have you got any examples of some great breakthroughs that have happened?
Yeah, well, there's so many. One of my clients yesterday was a Reiki client of mine, and she had just witnessed a really horrific accident on the way to my place, and she was distraught, and she was also pregnant as well. She came over and we got on the table, and I gave her the Reiki treatment, and we also so that was basically balancing her chakra system, but also removing energetic blocks. And because I knew what had happened, I was able to direct that energetically for her, and she was all for that. And what ended up happening is that she was so devastated at witnessing this accident. She was so sure that people were, like mortally injured in it. And that was really hard for her. And then, just a miraculous thing. Maybe it did have something to do with my healing. Maybe it didn't. I'm not really sure. But what happened was that when she had the healing, she not only felt completely refreshed and in alignment, and also very calm and soothed. She looked at the news flash and realized that all of the people that were in the car accident were sent to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And that was just a big moment for us. We were like, that's a timeline event. Now, this client happens to be another coach, because a lot of my clients are in that industry, and they come and see me for this. And it was like, we don't know why, but it happened like in that way. And it was just a really cool thing. And her and Bubs were, back to equilibrium, and it was just a lovely thing.
Cool. Because you were talking to me about doing you do like these big breakthrough sessions. Can you tell us about those? What they entail?
Yes. So I do 8-hour breakthrough sessions, and they comprise of sending out an email, and it's like a big questionnaire, and that questionnaire gives the client a complete idea of what they want, what the problem is, what it would look like if the problem wasn't there anymore, and what their personal goals are. They get an insight deeply into what their value systems might be at that moment, because they do change sometimes. And then I go through that, and from that questionnaire, I'm able to see exactly what that person would need in an 8-hour breakthrough session. Now, this is using NLP, this is using hypnosis, and this is using timeline therapy as well. And we can do anything during that 8-hour session. It starts in the morning and it just completely goes. And the amazing thing about these sessions is that we don't really notice that the time is actually ticking by. It's like time stands still. And we can go through and remove in that day all of the charges of all the negative emotions in the timeline that are so connected into the physiology through the nervous system, through the neural pathways. And so the charge is removed through timeline therapy. And we can also do things like position changing. So when, the person can, if they've got some really, serious stuff going on with another person, we go in and out of those role plays as well. It's all very structured. And, one of my clients didn't want to eat a particular brand of hamburger. Like, I'm not going to say which one it is, but she was eating one every day, and she's like, I just don't want it anymore. So the things that we can get to do for the client, and it's all calibrated on what their needs, on how they, got through that questionnaire. So, yeah, safe to say that in one of the modalities that we usually get through in this one of these breakthrough sessions is a like to dislike. So we take that thing and we change it, and she's not eaten one since. And just the whole lot of...
Hasn't gone to another brand.
No.
I've gone from Macca's to Jack's or back.
No. I wasn't going to say it, but you did. No, she when the client is ready, they will go. It's like, the thing about this work, and in an 8-hour breakthrough session, it's a life-changing event. It's a portal of change you put your hand up for, and they use these things in corporate a lot as well, so that people can be at their most empowered state and really access who they are and where they want to go, and clear all of the excess stuff out the way. Because often people don't realize that we move through the world, and we move through, and things bump up against our trauma points.
Yep.
And they are in the physiology, and they are in like our neural system as well. And when they are cleared, then that's when we can actually access our power and be our best selves. So that's really something that my clients want, and that's what they get as well. And so, yeah, we move through hypnosis. We can go back and change things out of their timeline. We can also go right into limiting decisions and change them, limiting beliefs as well. We change them to the opposite. We're using NLP and timeline therapy. And we can also go, one of the things that I love doing is hypnotherapy inner tours. And what that means is I get to guide with these beautiful people and take them on a symbols journey. And so they go to their sanctuary and they retrieve special symbols, and they bring that back. And what else they bring back is these lessons and learnings from... Now, we work with the unconscious mind in this modality, and that could be, like your higher self, or it could be your higher power, or whatever you want, but we connect with that. And the thing about this work is it brings the conscious mind, which is the one that's like, oh, don't go there. No, I know all about that. We're not doing that, that kind of thing. Slight language difference here to the spiritual community understanding of that. But these two parts of the mind, the work is in bringing them together in symbiosis. And that's where the mastery is. And that's what my job is, to assist people with. And that's not a woo thing. This is a real symbiosis of, like a co-creation between me and them and their unconscious mind, and also mine working through to theirs as well. And yeah, we work through hypnosis. We go into the timeline and also implant the things that they want in there. And we can also anchor into the physiology by using anchor points on the body. So we anchor positive states, and yeah, the list goes on. I could be here for a long time talking about that, but yeah. I've
got some questions here already. When you've done the hypnosis tours, the subconscious tours, have you had any negative results, like if people flipped out or anything like that?
No, because I'm taught how to handle that, and I just bring them into a state. There's ways, and it's so structured that you can't actually sort of go wrong with it. And if a person is associating too much, then we just bring them out of that, and there's specific ways in which that they have that done. Yeah, but mind you, on that, just on another note on that, and thanks for that question, that was really important. I know it's important to know that. Many people probably are a bit like, where are we going when we're going into these spaces? Well, the cool thing is when they are guided by someone such as, a coach, it's so structured that it's the repetition of the structure that is the safe space, and they're the walls that hold safe space for this person that's diving into this. Now, when they get these symbols or objects that are deeply meaningful for them, and it could be like a ankh, or it could be something like even a hibiscus flower. That could have such deep meaning for them. That the cool thing about this, and this has happened for me as well, because I've had a lot of this done in my life, is that you see that symbol playing out in our life, and it continues to feed back the important and empowering lessons and learnings that drop in through that. And it makes life like a beautiful event that happens for many of my clients. And they're like, oh, Sarandei, I had this happen where the symbol was speaking to me in this way, and then I discovered something different. I feel that is priceless and extremely healing. Yeah.
I have another question. Sarandei, what's the meaning of your name? What does it mean? Does it mean something?
So 2 years ago, I changed my name, but it hasn't been changed by deed poll. This is my spiritual name, because I had a spiritual awakening, which was so life-changing that I couldn't deny that my old life didn't fit my dharmic practice anymore. And my dharmic practice, which is my spiritual life, is what I live. So because I live a highly principled life, and I've had to make some really big changes through those portals of change that were thrust upon me. My old name didn't resonate anymore, and so it is actually. I'm just looking around at some of my artwork. It's actually in 3 different words. It's Sarandei. I don't know what that means, but that is the name that I have received, and I put it together, and it is Sarandei. And some people call me Sarah for short, but not many do.
I didn't know I could do that. That would have made things easier.
I try not to, but my son likes it. Yeah.
So you also do jewelry.
Yes,
you make a lot of jewelry.
I don't know if you can see. That's one of my pieces there. Yeah, I've been making jewelry for about 15 years, and it is something that I just jumped into, especially when I was in one of these awakenings where, I was certainly going into an abstinent lifestyle. And what I'd do was go down to all the bead shops that used to be open around here, and I'd spend heaps of money on beautiful crystals, and I'd make heaps of bracelets that were, like encoded with people's numerology and their astrology, and the type of crystal that they want. And I'd make these bracelets for them, and I'd give them away to people, and I'd make them these pieces of jewelry. And I didn't make it for a while, and I also used to use all different types of little recycled bits and pieces and make all of these like hangings. There's one in my healing room, and with meaningful objects of interest in them and on them. So now, I've just started doing it again, and I've made this piece. This is a ceremonial piece that is lapis, and it's my first attempt of using wire wrapping. So that was with silver. I always work with sterling silver and crystals. And so, I've just done a really simple wire wrap. I really liked it. And, I really love making jewelry.
You said it's ceremonial. That interests me. Can you tell us about that?
Well, this is this piece here is about, it's like sorry, I'm just trying to find this is a ceremonial piece that you would use at new moon time, which is what we're coming up to. It's a woman's piece, and it's about sacred space. It's about, it encapsulates femininity in sacredness and divine, just in divine power in that. Yeah, so and I'm not wearing them, but there's drop earrings that go with that as well. So what and this isn't me just going, I'm just going to make a ceremonial piece. It's not like that at all. It's not like I'm just going to go and do that seems trendy or something. This has just come through. All of my creativity is just it just happens. And so I'm making a man's one at the moment as well, and this actually has a bead on it that sorry, I'm just trying to get the right spot. There's a bead on it that I've had for 30 years, and it's a solid silver bead that's handmade in Namibia, in Africa. And I've just been holding on to it, waiting, and it's just been there. I've got another piece that I made that's a labradorite necklace, which is also similar energy, but different style, which is very beautiful. And that took me 12 years to finish, because all of a sudden I had it sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to finish that. So I went and finished it 12 years later. That's what my life's like. It's like all these different timelines going all around, and so that's what happened there.
I'm the same with some creation projects. I'll get so far on it, and then it'll be like, okay, now I've got to wait for the right crystal for it. And then sometimes it comes when it comes. It's
because you're a manifesting generator, and just going back to the human design stuff, which is just so amazing to know, is that they are a hybrid of manifestors and generators. And I mean, there's so much involved in that, but basically one of the things that we do, because you're one of them and I'm one of them as well, is we hop, skip and jump through all different kinds of projects, move faster than other people. We've got heaps of fingers in heaps of pies, always on the go with stuff. And others are like, what are they doing now? You know, like it's just one of those things. But often go back as well, and I'm seeing that a lot in people, where they're going back to stuff that they left behind, like I did as well, in 20 years ago, and they're picking that up again. And that's where I see a lot of the resurgence of all of these amazing sort of new earth type realities that are forming, especially in Adelaide as well, because I believe that we are at the forefront of a consciousness rising movement. And it's playing out in all kinds of weird ways. Of course it would, but so it's just a bit of the manifesting generator magic, I suppose. So it is in my life, because it plays out all the time. And the cool thing about knowing this is I don't feel like I have to explain anymore about why I'm jumping to this place or moving back to that. It's like I just know that that's in alignment, and that's what I need to do.
Yeah, because I mean, it's funny, because now that you mentioned manifest generator, I'll have to look more into it. But I thought I was weird, because I've got so many unfinished projects, but still plenty of them get completed. And now have I got an excuse for it now? That's the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you make Pacific jewelry for sale, or is it just made as you feel?
I'm interested in taking on custom projects, and I mean, obviously it's got a vibe, like it has to vibe with me. I've got heaps of, I'm just looking around, I'm in my sitting room at the moment, and I'm surrounded by my own art, and there's a lot of jewelry pieces here that I know will find their owner. And so at the moment, my main focus is to get that photographed by the right person, because it is hard to photograph jewelry. It doesn't, the light play is a bit annoying to work with. I do most of my own photography as well. Pretty much, one man band in some ways, and try to handle everything. You probably know what that's like. Very, very good at it, but hey, sometimes you've got to delegate. There's a few things around the place that will find their people, and that will all go onto my website as well. My idea is, with both websites, to leave a legacy of my work, and also to have something like to showcase it as well. And eventually there'll be a space on the art website for all my jewelry.
So if someone needs something, like say they want a ceremonial piece or they want a certain piece, they can come to you and you'll design it and make it for them.
Yeah, I've custom designed a lot of people's tattoos in the past. I don't have any of my own, but you know, with knowledge of all the different aspects of different, you know, spiritual or whatever you want to call it, you know, archetypal things, or talismanic needs and amulet requirements, that you can all put that together, even if it is just something that of beauty as well. All my jewelry is art, they're artworks.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can come and see me for that.
Now, you also offer coaching.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us a bit about what sort of coaching, what sort of realms that you go into with that and how it's structured?
Yes.
In case there's any potential customers watching. Yeah,
definitely. So one of my specialties is the 8-hour breakthrough session, and that would mean that a person knows that they're ready for a change, they're ready to invest in it, and it's something that they know that they're going to step in and out of and be different.
Yep.
And that's what will happen. Now,
awesome.
those breakthrough sessions have a specific price, and they also include, like text messages, some calls, and a review within sometimes about a month later. It can be 2 weeks later, whenever the person's really dropped in, and if anything has come up and they want to, clear that, then that's available to them. And then there's things like a 3-hour breakthrough, which is different because that's a lot more relaxed. It's, there's not as much aftercare. It's just something that someone goes into. We smash out a whole heap of modalities and clear away limiting decisions. We clear away, the negative emotions attached, go into the timeline, do a bit of tweaking around, but it's, there's a limitation on that one. And then I also do 90-minute sessions of coaching where we will pretty much talk about limiting decisions, limiting beliefs, ways in which to change that, and I'll give them some empowering information around that. And then also we'll probably do 1 or 2 modalities. So there's those 3. At the moment, I'm not running any programs, but there's except for the Earth Heaven Ascension program, and that is that's accessible. Excuse me, that's accessible on my Earth Heaven website. So yeah, that's pretty next level. We've also got on that Earth Heaven Ascension program, there's a new offering for people here in South Australia. That's a bit of a secret, but it's next level. So there'll be people that look in for that are going to get this extra. Oh, no one's going to hear about it yet. But yeah, it is like seriously next level, and it's very exciting, especially moving into the future. Just like imagine yourself living in your best life and cleared of everything, but still connected deeply and with a deep spiritual focus upon everything that's happened in the past, without the traumatic charge there, without the niggling charge of energy that always butts up and is like ripped open. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine also having your creativity opened up. Imagine being able to access your higher self clearly and continue to get those lessons and learnings dropping in. And imagine having something like a master Reiki session which activates and grounds your light body. That's what happens in the Earth Heaven Ascension program.
I guess the creative juices could just push so far. If that was the case, if you had all that stuff released, it would just open up so many amazing possibilities.
I think the one thing that people really want is inner peace and confidence. And if that opens up creativity for them, then that's amazing. If that just gives them something, just one more day or one more hour over and over again of a better life for them, then all the other things are just bonuses. And that's what I feel. And so everyone that I know, like the people that have gone through the Earth Heaven Ascension program or the 8-hour breakthrough sessions, they have inner peace. They're clearer. They don't have, you know, the baggage. But it's not like, you know, all of the important stuff just disappears. We can access that, you know, from here better, and we can access everything from a place of empowerment. And empowerment doesn't just mean, you know, like shoulder pad style. Empowerment is about being able to be contented and self-regulate. And self-regulating is a really important aspect of modern lifestyle. Like we need to be, you know, able to access our own just inner peace, I think, at any given moment in this day and age. And I feel that that's one of the things that people want the most.
When you said shoulder pads, I just got a flashback to the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was on purpose.
Yeah, that was on purpose. So one thing I always ask my guests is if you could go back to when you started awakening, to your spirit, when you started getting serious about your spiritual walk, what sort of advice would you give yourself?
Just be kind and gentle with yourself, and and just honor yourself above everything else, and know that your purpose is probably a lot simpler than you think it is.
We tend to complicate things, though, don't we?
Absolutely. I know that. I mean, especially highly creative people. There's just so many things at play, and
so many options.
so many options. That's what I would say to myself, definitely.
Yeah, and it's easy to get lost in the options.
It's like, oh, which button next?
Which button next? Just press all of them.
Just press all of them.
See which one works.
Yeah.
That's it. Go universe, you decide. No. Well, thanks very much for coming on the show, Sarandei. And it was brilliant. And people, if you want to get hold, it's the Earth Heaven?
Yeah, Earth Heaven, earthheaven.com.au, and also visionaryartbysoniagalbraith.com. And there's the email addresses and all of that.
Yep. And people just go back into the show notes, and all the links will be there. So you don't have to look it up. You can just go, okay, open, click. Because I know you people work so hard that you just don't want to have to go through that much effort at the end of a show, at the end of a hard day. So thank you once again for coming on. It was brilliant having you on. And thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Brooke. It's been really nice.
You're welcome.
And okay.
Thank you. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.